Let's continue our discussion based on Kenichiro Mogi's The Way of Nagomi. Kenichiro Mogi believes that the Way of Nagomi allows you to find a sense of tranquility in everything you do in life. On a societal, political, and corporate level, Nagomi brings seemingly contradictory elements together, achieving harmony. Nagomi significantly shapes the Japanese character. Unlike American entrepreneurs and celebrities who are outspoken, expressing opinions on Twitter, the Japanese are reserved. Success is met with modesty, and failure is handled with grace, rarely expressing personal opinions publicly. In short interactions, one might find the Japanese insincere or lacking in genuine emotion. However, this silent and reserved nature is a survival strategy in a high-density society. Comparing different cultures is fascinating. A German once visited Japan, and Mogi talked to her, explaining that Japanese office workers usually gather at an izakaya after work. They share grievances, complain about their bosses, express frustrations, and strengthen personal relationships over drinks. The German was surprised, stating that such a scenario would be impossible in Germany. In German companies, employees compete, and revealing weaknesses or criticizing the boss during drinks is unthinkable. The essence lies in how the Japanese reconcile work and life through Nagomi. Employees treat the company as a family, and the company, in turn, cares for its employees, fostering unity and comfortable relationships, unlike the more distant relations in German companies. On a larger scale, Nagomi extends to the concept that establishing a company is not solely for profit. Shibusawa Aichi, known as the father of Japanese capitalism, was an influential industrialist during the late Edo period to the Taisho era. He emphasized the social responsibility of entrepreneurs in his book, The Analects of Confucius and Abacus. Shibusawa founded various companies, covering banking, hotels, beer, steamships, and even the Tokyo Stock Exchange. However, he also established a university, founded the Japanese Red Cross, and engaged in public services. His philosophy was that private companies should not only maximize profits but also contribute to the welfare of employees, customers, and society as a whole. In the eyes of many Western economists, a company's mission is often seen as maximizing shareholder interests. While some in Japan have adopted this view, but this view has never deeply resonated within the Japanese mindset. Japanese politics is different from elsewhere. Although Japan has a multi-party democratic system, the Liberal Democratic Party, LDP, has been in power for most of the time since the end of World War II, resembling a one-party rule. Is this a sign of immature democracy or autocracy by the LDP? According to Kenichiro Mogi, the LDP has actually been engaging in co-optation politics, co-opting opposition parties. Rumors circulate that the chief cabinet secretary of the LDP receives a secret fund of $1 million per month for building relations with the opposition. The goal is not bribery but seeking opinions, balancing interests. While the opposition may not come into power, they participate in private discussions with the LDP, advocating for issues beneficial to the general public, such as improving social welfare and raising the minimum wage. Therefore, the opposition, despite not holding office, plays a role in policy discussions and has an impact. From a Western perspective, this behind-the-scenes collaboration might be seen as corruption. However, viewed from the perspective of whether various interests are successfully compromised, it resembles a consensus-based democracy. This is the Nagomi of politics, acknowledging conflicts between parties but avoiding a zero-sum game. Opposition parties may oppose the ruling party, but if the ruling party can address their concerns, there might be no need for an adversarial relationship. In contrast to the divisive nature of U.S. two-party politics, Japan experiences milder political conflicts. Public protests and demonstrations, common in Western countries, are rare in Japan. However, this doesn't mean Japan lacks social change. It simply prefers a gradual, incremental approach. While political and speech freedoms might not be as extensive as in the West, it doesn't imply Japan cannot accommodate diverse voices. Different opinions and stances are mainly dealt with through negotiation, avoiding open hostility. Another unique aspect of Japanese politics lies in the absence of a dominant ideology. Japan doesn't adhere strictly to a particular set of beliefs. It avoids a straightforward liberal or conservative approach. This flexibility is remarkable, considering Japan's homogeneous nature, which could lead to extremism. Perhaps modern Japan learned from the lessons of militarism, allowing the society to embrace diverse ideologies. Consider this fact. In Japanese weddings, Christian-style ceremonies are common, but Shinto rites are typical for funerals. The coexistence of these vastly different religions within one society is indeed an extraordinary achievement. Why does Japan tend to label things as do, meaning way? Examples include judo, kendo, shodo, chado, and ikebana. To many Chinese, these ways seem more about form than substance. For instance, the tea ceremony involves intricate steps, seemingly excessive, and the resulting tea might not be exceptional. Is this formalism a mere pose? This touches on a unique Japanese way of thinking. An inclination to explore the spirit of an object to the utmost. We can discuss this in more detail later. According to Kenichiro Mogi, these ways are manifestations of Nagomi. They combine the mastery of a skill with the spiritual cultivation of an individual. Learning a skill is not merely about the skill itself but also about elevating one's spiritual refinement through that skill. Consider judo, for example. It's not just about defeating opponents and improving physical fitness. Judo involves various rules, ethical requirements, and, most importantly, philosophical contemplation. Every training session begins with a state of sincerity and pure-heartedness, immense respect for the teacher, who may impart values to the student. These ways continue to thrive today because they provide a spiritual outlet. Without the added value of spiritual significance, traditional practices would have been obsolete in our modern world, where martial arts might not beat firearms, and tea ceremonies might not outperform Starbucks in a blind taste test. The reality is that pure pragmatism is boring. Some entrepreneurs, after accumulating wealth, turn to the arts, not just for investment but to enrich their spiritual lives through art collections. Now, let's delve into the Japanese appreciation of cherry blossoms, almost to the point of obsession. What does it represent? Kenichiro Mogi explains that cherry blossoms bloom every year, but the exact timing and duration are uncertain. If the weather is warm, the blossoms open easily. If it turns cool a few days after, the blooming period extends. However, rain or wind can cause the blossoms to fall prematurely. In ideal conditions, cherry blossoms only last for about a week. Short-lived, uncertain, yet incredibly beautiful. The Japanese see this as a metaphor for human life. Isn't something so transient worthy of admiration? Japanese culture has a concept called mono no aware, mono no aware, which expresses a sense of melancholy for the impermanence of things. Despite this awareness of transience, Japan possesses some of the world's oldest entities. Centuries-old family businesses, the Ise Grand Shrine, which relocates and rebuilds every 20 years, and the current emperor being the 126th in line. All reflect an acknowledgement of transience, but also a way to ensure continuity, a form of Nagomi. Between life and death, there is also Nagomi. Japanese believe that a person does not truly disappear after death. As long as someone remembers them, they continue to exist. Shintoism emphasizes that individuals become gods after death. Important figures in Japanese history are revered as gods by the people, even those without significant names or anonymous individuals who may become revered gods. The sun goddess Amaterasu, enshrined at the Ise Grand Shrine, is the highest-ranking god in Japan. However, people have forgotten who she was in her earthly life or her name. What remains in memory is her excellence as a woman. Lastly, let's discuss Japan's creativity. Since the information technology revolution from the 1990s onward, Japan has not kept up, particularly in hardware, software, internet applications, and AI, compared to the United States, China, and South Korea. This may be related to Japan's economic stagnation over the past 3 decades. However, Japan still exhibits high-level innovation in many other fields. Focusing on culture, such as anime, Japanese animation is deeply influenced by Disney. Yet, due to budget constraints, Japanese animation cannot match the meticulousness of Disney. The frame rate is lower, and the animation may seem rigid. However, this has become a distinctive feature. Japanese anime doesn't compete on technology, but still captivates a global audience. The key to an innovative environment lies in freedom. No need for licenses, people can invent freely. Japanese society, initially strict, is lenient when it comes to anime innovation. Any work, regardless of its lack of professionalism, low quality, youthfulness, or immaturity, is accepted in Japan. The cultural realm in Japan promotes an aesthetic orientation that specifically values immaturity, youthfulness, and lightheartedness, known as kawaii or cute. In Japan, everything can be kawaii. regardless of high or low culture, influential or not, male or female, young or old. Even if someone like Arnold Schwarzenegger comes to Japan and participates in a program, they will be transformed into something kawaii. Once something becomes kawaii, even if it's new or strange, society quickly accepts it. Kawaii is the blending of the familiar and the unexpected, embodying Nagomi. Anime and manga, in particular, grasp this essence. Drawing manga doesn't discriminate between high or low culture, newcomer or seasoned artist. Anyone can draw. Therefore, manga thrives in Japan. The father of Japanese animation, Osamu Tezuka, created a series of works, including Astro Boy, bringing joy to countless children. How did he decide to start drawing manga? At the end of World War II, when Japan was devastated, Osamu Tezuka happened to take a long-distance journey on foot. Along the way, he witnessed the ruins of war, deeply moved. Instead of thinking about economics, he pondered the immense trauma suffered by the Japanese. He felt the need to console them through manga, prompting him to start creating. While many in the West believe that geniuses are unique, the Japanese view genius as connectors of the world. Creativity is not something geniuses impose on the world. It's their ability to organically fuse various elements in the world, including themselves. This doesn't imply that every country should adopt Japan's practices or that everything should be approached with Nagomi. Nagomi's most obvious drawback is low efficiency. In the face of contradictions, sometimes persistence is necessary for quick problem solving. Practices like treating a company as a family or avoiding layoffs might be less efficient than American companies. However, sometimes low efficiency might be the cost of harmony. Efficiency is not always the ultimate goal. These two aspects might offer you a better understanding of Japan. As individuals, how can we practice Nagomi? In a conversation, Kenichiro Mogi suggests doing the opposite of what you routinely do. Regardless of your daily routine. If you work indoors all day, go for an outdoor run. If you commute by car, walk. If you always surround yourself with family and familiar friends, go out and meet new people. In essence, Nagomi requires adding elements of contradiction and opposition to your life, blending them together to create harmony. I believe our ancient Chinese sages would not oppose these ideas. In the perspective of ancient wisdom, modern society easily leads people to extremes. It's essential to find a balanced approach, incorporating elements of contradiction and harmony.
If you feel there is value in this, please like, subscribe to this channel, and leave your thoughts or suggestions in the comments section. Let's grow together and read more good books.